The courage of the young people involved in the June 16th uprising against apartheid education, against Afrikaans as a medium of instruction in schools, and what the young people did facing those apartheid police. Also, our panel, let's turn to that, looking at the struggles of young people today, and of course the biggest one, unemployment, just finding it difficult to secure a future, to put food on the table. One of our panelists, we're struggling with his sound, so we've got him on the telephone, Raymond Matlala, founder and CEO of the South African BRICS Youth Association. And Mr. Matlala, my question to you earlier was, is the BRICS grouping still relevant? You know, we know a lot of these countries have internal issues like Brazil and India at the moment. Is this still relevant for South Africa? And is there a global collective view that could impact the lives of South African young people?
Thank you very much. Indeed. Look, BRICS is still relevant, and we believe that through the other BRICS channels, we will be able to change the multi-order in terms of the multipolar world that we seek to achieve. And I'll give you an example. We look at the BRICS Bank, and the BRICS Bank is still quite young, but it is providing some infrastructure funding. In fact, it provided funding for South Africa, for India, and I think Brazil, in terms of loans during the COVID-19 pandemic fight against that. And of course, we have, like any other structures, there is conflict and there are challenges. But what I like about BRICS is that it works on consensus. Therefore, those conflicts are then get resolved through discussions and diplomatic channels.
All right, thank you. And stay with us. Let's return to our female guests on the panel who have to leave shortly, starting with Ms. Dooms, who's a former commissioner for the Youth Development at the National Planning Commission. And we've been talking, Ms. Dooms, about the lack of young people involved in strategic planning in South Africa. You were agreeing with Kgotsi Chikana that maybe these youth opportunities, these job opportunities aren't great. They're short-term without long-term implications. So before you go, just continue to tell us what you believe are some possible solutions.
Yeah, I think there are two solutions that as the Planning Commission that we did put forward. The one is rethinking the demand side of the youth labor market issue. A lot of interventions are focused on the young people and getting them ready for the job market, but not on getting the job market ready for young people. We do not have youth-friendly employers who are ready to train young people, to take them up, to have a kind of an apprenticeship model that really grows young people in organizations and teaches them more about business, so that even if they venture out into their own businesses, they understand how business works. And so we need to look at the ways in which businesses are structured. We need to look at the ways in which businesses are staffing, so that we have spaces that are looking for young people and want to bring them in, as opposed to blocking young people at every opportunity. And then the second one is to look at the social economy. We have so many young people across this country who work in their communities every day. They are there as young people, as community workers, as community leaders, as people in the social sector. But we do not value the social sector enough, and we're not seeing enough jobs being created in NGO spaces where young people are already active. And if we start to value young people where they are, we start to already solve a lot of the unemployment crisis and see young people do what the president is saying. They're already working their communities tirelessly. Let us go to where they are and value what they're doing, rather than ask them to do things that we want them to do on our terms.
All right, Ms. Duncan-Williams from Youth Capital, project lead there. Do you believe that business can become more young people friendly? And you can add your last words on solutions.
Absolutely. I think what businesses need to realize is if they want to have customers 10 years from now, then you need to create a workforce of young people who have money to plow back into the economy. We need to invest in young people now to avoid more intergenerational cycles of poverty and unemployment, which we're already seeing. And so it's really in the best interest of everyone for us to solve this youth unemployment crisis. Businesses need to realize that young people need the opportunities to get the work experience, to find a pipeline where they can get a set of skills, as has already been said on the panel, that takes them towards a career choice, instead of what's happening where we give young people, like has been said already, these short-term opportunities, and young people are jumping from one to the other because they're desperate for an income, instead of having a system that helps young people to string all these short courses, short stints of work into something that actually is a meaningful career path. And so in closing, just to say that we really need to look, all of us in the sector, civil society, people working with young people themselves in government, and say we need to really all come around the table, and each of us have a skill and a voice to add to this conversation, and we need to really listen and start learning from our mistakes and not repeating them. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Duncan-Williams. And Kgotsi Chikana, you were talking about this earlier, saying these job opportunities are too short. They should be at least 2 years. A government that's complaining about money for even government workers, is this viable?
So it's not viable if government is becoming the employer of choice, right? So if government takes on the role of we will become the largest, as they are, employer of people in the country, you run into a bit of a trap there. Because if government starts failing, if government's coffers are running dry, you're running into a big trap in that situation. I think the real focus needs to be around how do you generate, again, I come back to this word economic activity, where young people can employ themselves or can find jobs within our economy, whether that is in corporate, whether that's in civil society, but in a space in which they get income. And when they get income, they can plow their income back into the economy in a virtuous cycle. And I think, as Kristal stated, and it's really an important point, if you don't fix the unemployment problem for young people right now, we're not going anywhere. It's not like we're all going to pass away miraculously and then a new generation of young people. We go from being 25, 26 to becoming 35, 36 to becoming 45, 46. We become constant consumers in our economy. If you deny us the opportunity to get jobs, to get skills, this has a cascading effect over the next 20 years, where in 20 years from now, the demand that we're looking for from a booming economy won't come because we don't have young people, or at that point, we don't have fully adulthood citizens, if we had to use that phrase, who are actively participating with their skills in the economy. Yeah. So it becomes a systemic challenge if we don't solve this problem now.
And it's always said the youth bulge, this huge young population we have, like you said, is either a risk for the country or something that is a great opportunity for the future. But just practically, again, there are incentives for businesses to employ young people. A lot of initiatives. Why are they not working?
Yeah, so it's a complete labor market skills mismatch. And in government's defense, government made an active decision in the mid-2000s where they said, through a program called ASGISA and GIPSA, for those who remember that developmental framework we used to have, where they said we need to create young people with employable skills. And out of that came this boom of FET colleges, right? So I love the narrative of we need more artisans in the country. You know, the more artisans we have, it's a metaphor for hard skills that people can have that they can push back into the economy. What we've now subsequently found out over the past 15 years is that there's a huge mismatch with the skills that government thought would generate economic activity and the skills and the demand for skills in the actual labor market. So there has to be a firm retweaking, and this happens in spaces such as NEDLAC, where the discussions in NEDLAC have to fundamentally unpack what it means to have this skills shortage. The hard policy decisions that have to be made by departments that deal with SMMEs have to focus on what that skill gap looks like. And then you say in practical terms, what skills do we need to teach at basic education from grade 8 onwards? What skills do we need to teach in tertiary education, right? Throw away the idea that government, and I say this with hesitancy, right? Because government does a lot of good work, but you need to park the idea that government should be the employer of choice for young people. because it's an easy scapegoat argument for government. And what government needs to do is say, what is our role as a facilitator in merging the gap that exists between the available skills that we have amongst young people and the skills that are demanded by the labor market? Now, programs such as YES try to do this, yet fail in certain respects, right? Because it's too dominant on giving business an incentive to hire young people who doesn't have the skills for that job, right? So it takes a little bit of ingenuity to an extent. Another practical example of this would be asking the question of what jobs need to be created, right? And you do the analysis and the numbers are there. And then you actively ask the question of what would it take for business to hire these individuals? At that point, you can have a conversation about incentives and subsidies, but you can't just make it a blanket approach across multiple sectors and hope that you strike lucky. It has to be purposeful.
Okay, so it has to be around the skills needed. Let's bring in Mr. Matlala again, the CEO of the South African BRICS Youth Association. Firstly, you mentioned the BRICS Bank. Is that doing anything in terms of providing funds for young people specifically? And is there any opportunity here to share skills amongst countries to allow young people to move? It's always said that capital can move, labor is stuck. South African young people are stuck in South Africa. Any opportunities in the BRICS?
Yeah, thank you very much. So, and the question that you're raising is the question that we've been pushing, that we need the new development bank to start focusing on funding youth activities. If you look at our policy recommendations from civil society 2018 South Africa, we explicitly note that at the moment, what the BRICS Bank is focusing on is on infrastructure development, particularly among the countries. But of course, in terms of opportunities, we as young people are working together to creating an opportunity. And I'll give an example. We have established what we call the BRICS Chamber of Commerce and Industry Young Leaders. And we've just started with the work in all the 5 BRICS countries. Initially founded in India, but in South Africa we've been working for the past 4 months now around how do we facilitate intra-BRICS trade among young people in particular. And to that end, we brought in a number of stakeholders here: civil society, business, government, and academia, as a steering committee for South Africa, in order to try to come up with ways and practical, issues that, practical exercises that we can utilize as the BRICS youth, population, on how can we, open up those intra-trade amongst BRICS youth.
Thank you very much. And we're going to say goodbye to Raymond Matlala. He is CEO of the South African BRICS Youth Association. And on